Hi, and welcome to the Writers Workout Conference. My name is Carly Lafusi, but you may know me better as KT Carlisle, author of I Know What I Saw and Intuition. I also run KTA Editorial, where I help lots of querying authors perfect their query packages and, most importantly, craft a compelling query letter, which is what I'm here to talk to you about today. So a query letter is kind of one of the most frustrating, no, it definitely is one of the most frustrating parts of being an author, especially if you are an author in the querying trenches hoping to snag an agent. And the reason for that is that a query letter really deals with a type of writing style that many of us creative types are unfamiliar with. For me, my background is mainly in marketing, so this kind of writing comes a little bit more easily to me, which is why I'm able to help guide other authors in the right direction and help them craft a compelling query that grabs the agent's attention and invites them to keep reading the sample pages so that they can actually see what your book sounds like. So a query letter is really, really important because it introduces you to the agent. It gives them a holistic overview of what your book is about, and most importantly, where it might fit on bookshelves. And this is really an essential piece of the puzzle because an agent is evaluating these queries to see, okay, is this a project that I can sell to a publisher? If so, I want to know more. If not, I'm probably going to pass. So in this demonstration, I would like to help you identify what is probably wrong with your query as it stands and how you can polish it so that you can increase your chances of getting to that next level, which is the coveted full manuscript request, which will hopefully result in an offer call so you can get that representation that you're after. So without further ado, let's dive into what the 5 components of a successful query letter are. So the first obvious thing is to identify the agent that you would like to query. Name them, first and last name, and do a little bit of research on them because one of the things that often goes overlooked in a query letter is that personalization piece. And what I mean by personalization is identifying upfront why you chose this particular agent. I think a lot of times with authors, especially new authors who are, relatively novice at the querying process, is to blanket query, which, essentially means we're querying any and all, and it's all a numbers game, which can sometimes work, but most of the time it's not as effective because you're not really communicating why you think that this partnership would benefit the both of you. So a really easy way to address the personalization piece up front is to go ahead and take a look at the agent's manuscript wish list and see what it is that they're actually looking for to build their list with. Alternatively, you can take a look at their current client list. And, obviously with that, you want to be careful because you don't want to identify things that make you too similar because a lot of agents don't want to have competing authors on their list because it creates a conflict of interest. So that's obviously very reasonable, but it can be a great resource for you to identify, okay, so this agent does sign authors within this realm. I am just different enough to bring a new voice to their current client list, and that's why I'd like to query them. So really easy to do up front. Hey, so and so, I'm very excited to share with you my young adult novel, complete at X amount of words. This is the title based on your interest in XYZ that I pulled from the manuscript wish list or your client. Or your current client list. From there, within your intro paragraph, you want to make sure that you are including the genre, the total word count approximation for your manuscript. I always like to round up to the nearest 100 or 1,000 just to keep it clean. You don't want to be super, super precise with that. And then from there, you want to make sure that you're including the target audience as well. So exactly what I just said in the very beginning. Hi, I'm excited to share with you my young adult novel complete at X amount of words, it's insert its title, and then go on to say why you are targeting that agent. That is a perfect way to just introduce and go right off the bat. From there, you want to go ahead and talk about what the comp titles are for your manuscript. And comp titles can be a little tricky for some writers. It's a very big point of contention within the writing community. A lot of people are like, I don't have time to read all these crazy books, and how am I supposed to write a whole book and work a full-time job and take care of my kids and make sure they're getting to their soccer practices and also cook dinner and then clean the house and also read all these different comp titles? Well, I'm here to tell you that here's a secret. I did not actually read but one of the comp titles that I included in the query letter that ended up getting me my agent. And I actually didn't even read that comp title that I did until after the fact that I signed with my agent. And here's how I did it in a way that saved me a lot of time, but made sure that I was doing the research appropriate for me to say, hey, I understand what the current market is and how my book fits into it. So, a really easy way to do this is to nail down the main themes and tropes within your manuscript that you know already stand out, and then just head to Google or go to Goodreads and look up books that fit that bill. So for me, I wrote a book that had to do with the afterlife, and it was a rom-com. So I looked up quite literally, romance novels that take place in the afterlife, and I found quite a few different things. I looked through all the different summaries. I read it. I skimmed a few of the opening pages to see if it was a match for my voice, and then I narrowed it down from there to select a few that I felt were strong representations of what I brought to the table. And then the way you want to do this is, you don't simply list out these comp titles. You want to specifically name the things that your work shares in common with them. So it could be, the second chance romance as seen in Celebrity Crush by Chrissy Swift, or it could be as simple as the New England setting in Harlan Coben's Shelter, which is something that I comped when I was querying I Know What I Saw. So, you want to pull out elements that your manuscript shares in common, but make sure that you're not saying something is an exact match, because at that point it's like, well, if this already exists, then why am I querying this book? So you list the things or the tropes and themes that your book has in common with the title, and you want to make sure that you include at least three, that they're all published within the last 5 years, and that they're all within the genre that you are hoping to get your book published in. The other thing that I will say is when you select comp titles, don't be afraid to pick things like movies or TV shows to comp your work to. I've even heard of authors successfully querying and comping to Taylor Swift songs of all things. So, don't be afraid to think outside the box. And if you feel it's very relevant to what your manuscript is, go ahead and include it. Just make sure that it is relevant. From there, the second piece of the puzzle is the log line. Now, this is something that goes very overlooked, and a lot of authors don't include this in their query letter. There have been many authors that I know who have gotten an agent without including this. So if you don't feel that you're able to include this, or you don't know really what to say in this part because it can be a little bit tricky, you can go ahead and forego it, but the chances are that you're going to have a much stronger and a much more successful experience if you do go ahead and include this part. And what a logline is basically a tagline for your book that captures the essence of what your manuscript is. So for me, when I was querying, I said, sometimes you need to die to learn how to live and love. And that was it. That's the log line. And what it does is it's a kind of like a hook. So, you've already grabbed the agent's attention, you've introduced your work to them, you've laid out your comp titles, and then from there, you're hooking them even more by saying, hey, this is what I have to offer. Let me give you a little bit more. And from there, you go on to the third piece of the puzzle, which is the plot summary. Now, the plot summary is a place where a lot of authors struggle as well, because you have to accomplish a lot of different things in a very short amount of space. I like to limit plot summaries to no more than 2 paragraphs, and those paragraphs should be pretty succinct, no more than, I would say, 3 to 4 sentences. And within those, you want to make sure you are introducing your main character, you are showing what their dilemma is, and you are illustrating what the stakes are. Now, it's not like a synopsis where you're spoiling everything up front. You want to deliver this message in a way that is intriguing. You're not tipping your hand too much, but you're doing it in a way that is inviting enough where the agent might go, this is an interesting premise, and I really want to read the opening pages, or at least move on to the synopsis and see how they're able to pull off this complex premise. After you get through your plot summary and you make sure that it includes all of those three things, you want to go ahead and move on to your author bio. Now, depending on where you are at in your author journey, this could be a chance for you to showcase all of your amazing writing achievements, or it could be another point of frustration because you might be early on in your author journey and might not have a lot of writing accolades to point to. But if that's the case, don't worry, because one thing that you have in your repertoire is your unique voice and your unique experience. So this is a chance for you to insert a little bit of personality into your query letter by showing the agent not only what you have created, but who you are as a person and why you are the best writer for this particular story. So for instance, when I was querying Love After Life, which is the book that ended up getting my agent, I included a little line that said that I was a level 9 sorcerer or wood elf sorcerer in D&D. And some people might think that that is a little strange to include, but for me it wasn't, because I wanted to include something just a little bizarre enough to show the voice that I was bringing to this book, because it is very quirky and silly and does not take itself too seriously. So that was my goal in including that as a part of my author bio. Of course, if you have writing accolades, now is the time to include those. You know, hi, I am KT Carlisle. I have published XYZ books. I've had this many book sales, or, you know, I've won this award, or whatever it might be. Now's the time to include it. And it can be a little bit uncomfortable for writers, even, you know, seasoned writers, that we have this like funny little thing where we're too modest sometimes. We don't take the moment to celebrate those wins and those things that we have worked so hard to achieve. But now is absolutely the time to go ahead and do that. So don't be afraid to be a little braggy, you know, within reason. You don't want to come off as, arrogant. But as long as you're able to include those things in a way that is fun and tasteful and speaks to the unique voice and your unique experience, then that is the way to approach that. Another thing I will bring up is, you know, as you look through agents' manuscript wish lists and research agents that you want to query, you might notice that many of them are looking for what's known as own voices authors. Now, I caution against including just, you know, whatever, you know, identifier you want to include in these paragraphs or these author bio paragraphs, only because it's not always appropriate, right? Because, for instance, you know, I am a bisexual, physically disabled, neurodivergent person, but I don't really feel the need to include those things in my author bio, not because I don't feel that they're important, but I don't necessarily feel that they speak to what the manuscript that I have written is all about. So, you know, of course, if your manuscript does include a LGBTQ cast of characters, or BIPOC characters, or neurodivergent characters, and you're speaking directly to that experience and you have experience with that, by all means, take this opportunity and include that. If that is not the case, however, I really wouldn't include it. That's something that you can discuss and mention during your offer call if that comes. But at this time, if it doesn't apply to your manuscript, I say don't feel pressured to include it. And it absolutely is not going to factor in one way or the other as far as their decision to go ahead and make that offer. From the author bio, you move on to the fifth and final piece of the puzzle, which is the closing statement. Now, this one also gets a little bit overlooked by some authors because the tendency is to just say, "Thank you for your consideration. I look forward to hearing back from you," or something to that effect, and then just signing off sincerely, which is fine. But as somebody who was on the opposite side of the desk, so I was the one fielding submissions and unfortunately sending out those nasty rejection letters that we all hate. Um, One of the things that I realized pretty early on in that experience is that some authors would query and they would not have a full manuscript available. So, for instance, I fell in love with this one story and I went to go request more, and the author did not have a full manuscript available. And it was so unfortunate because it really could have worked out had she been more prepared. So, what I encourage my clients to do, and what I encourage all querying authors to do, is to just include a little note at the end there, something to the effect of, "Thank you for your consideration. I've provided a sample of my manuscript for your review along with my query, and I would be happy to send the full manuscript upon request," because this signals to the agent that not only are you respectful and appreciative of their time, but you are ready to take that next step and show them everything that you have. From there, obviously you sign off sincerely, all best, regards, kindly, however you want to say it, with your full name. I always include an email address, a phone number, any social media handles, and the website if they are available or applicable. And then from there, I mean, you've got a polished query and you are ready to go. So that is my whole spiel on how to craft a compelling query letter. If you would like more personalized guidance on that, you can feel free to reach out to me at ktaeditorial@gmail.com. You can go to my website at www.ktaeditorial.com. And you can also find me on Twitter at KT_Carlisle. And my DMs are always open. I try to be as responsive as I can possibly be and just try to help out all authors because we are all in this together. I love to see other people succeed and help guide them to get that offer of representation. I hope that this has been helpful to you, and I wish you the best of luck on your querying journey and crafting that amazing query letter that I know exists in you. So I hope that you have found this helpful and can believe in yourself the way that I do.